What's going on, everyone? You are tuned into the Founder Hour podcast. I'm your co-host, Pat.
I'm Posh.
And we have the pleasure of sitting down with Miki Agrawal right now. Miki, it's a pleasure to have you on the show.
So happy to be here with you guys. In person, not on Zoom.
In person. I know. We don't do these often, and they're just so great when we do. So
I know.
Hopefully that changes. I mean, are we post-pandemic yet? I mean, officially, what
does that even mean?
Literally this one, like I got an email and it's like, one kid in your, like a kid in your kid's classroom has COVID. We're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So now no one gives a shit anymore.
Does that mean we're not post-pandemic?
I know, but but the thing is, nobody cares anymore.
Right.
Like imagine they did that with like a cold. Like you would never have school.
Exactly.
Like let these kids just get immune to these things.
Exactly.
Yeah. We try to do these in person as much as we can. And so it worked out. You're in LA for a bit.
Yeah.
So you're visiting LA for, it was like a week or something, a few days?
A couple days, yeah.
Couple days.
3 days, yeah.
So glad we could make it happen.
Same.
But what we like to always do, we just like to take it back to the early days of whoever we have on the show and just kind of learn about their background and their story and what they were like as a kid. So I guess as far back as you can remember, what was young Miki like? What was she into? And we can start there.
Well, just like you guys are first generation Armenian, right?
Yeah.
Both
First
parents.
generation
Armenian.
First generation Armenian, as in your parents are Armenian. Both.
Yes.
Yeah. So my dad is from India, and my mom is like from Japan, hello, please.
How did they meet?
They met in graduate school in Ottawa in Canada. And my mom was doing like a 1-year abroad program from Japan. Was supposed to go back to Japan after 1 year. And my dad was doing a 2-year abroad program in Canada and was supposed to go back to India after 2 years. But they met in Ottawa, like at the same graduate program, and just in the same school. My mom was doing international relations. My dad was doing aeronautical engineering, and they just fell in love, and within 7 months were married. And within a year, they had like 3 kids.
Wow!
Because my older sister is less than a year older than us.
So you guys are like what, Irish twins?
We're Irish triplets. Because I'm an identical twin.
Wow.
And my third sister is 11 months older than us.
How many of those are there like in the world?
Irish triplets? I don't know. That's a great question.
You should have like a community of like Irish triplets that.
Well, we were part of the twin club in Montreal growing up, and it was like 200 sets of twins. And
what is that? Like, what do you guys do in the club?
You would do like apple bobbing competitions, and you would do like 3-legged race and shit like that. Just like all the kids. Yeah. But they let my older sister in because she was an Irish triplet.
Right.
And that was like one of the first.
She's older or younger?
Less than a year older.
Older, got
it. Yeah.
That's crazy. So I mean, what was life like growing up, like in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, I think like where I got lucky was that because I grew up in Montreal, French Canada, to a Japanese mother and to an Indian father, I grew up with just a shit ton of different perspectives all the time. I got the Canadian, I got the French Canadian, the English and French. I got the Indian Japanese perspective for everything.
Yeah. And what were those perspectives? Can you break it down?
Just like, for example, anything political. Like, what do each culture think about for all like for a specific topic, or when it comes to raising kids and families. Everyone has different perspectives on how to do that, right? The Indians have very different from Japanese, are very different from Canadian mentality. And so it was just really cool to have that like permission to be able to really like talk about anything and just say like, and argue for or against things. There was no one way of doing something or one way of thinking about something. It was an argument all the time. And so we were allowed to argue. And I think when it came to, fast forward to becoming an entrepreneur, it just sort of like being able to argue a problem, came in handy.
Are you talking about at home or like even in school and just like
arguing not like in a negative way.
Yeah,
just
no,
like,
for sure. But like having like healthy debate.
Healthy debate. Yeah. Always at home around the dinner table. We always had healthy debate about all the different topics.
Did that cause any issues in school when you were a kid for you? Like for yourself?
Well,
because sometimes like the school system is not designed for that.
Totally. And it's a great question because no one's ever asked me that actually in the history. But my twin sister and I were always troublemakers. And because we were always questioning the teachers and just kind of being rambunctious, kids. And so the school put us on what they call the red book, which it was like,
sick.
It was kind of like in school terms, it was like shameful because like we basically had to have like every single teacher sign this red book. Miki and Rada did not chew gum in class, not shout answers, did not argue with the teacher, did not eat an apple, did not take their shoes off, did not untuck their shirt, whatever it was.
That
like,
sounds so demoralizing.
it was
Just
like kind of like, but it was also kind of rebellious. So it was
yeah, I was like, cool.
both-
Like you wanted to make the red book. Like,
well, I mean, at the time, it didn't.
Is
feel
your
that
next
way.
book going to be called The Red Book?
That's a good concept. Yeah.
And it could just be like about just like rebellion,
Society,
rebellion,
yeah.
you know, and how it leads to.
the red book of society.
Yeah.
Totally. It's like, what does the dark red book say?
Yeah,
You
just,
know?
it's just a red. It's like there's no title.
There's
It's
no
just red.
That's good. Because
like
that's what it was. It was this
It's just a red book.
It was just a red book. And you had to go in and
crazy.
just shit to check off all the shit.
Were there other students that were like scared shitless of the red book? Like they just
Yeah, it was just like a thing of we were just like, you don't want the red book.
Yeah.
You know, and Rada and I used to play like Queen of the Mountain. We would push kids off the mountain and we would just kind of be like really, you know, like just rebellious kids. And I think entrepreneurs are rebellious by nature. It's like, fuck the system, you know? It's
Yeah.
like, this doesn't feel like, why am I sitting here in a row of desks, standardized tests, when that was created for people who are literally created for like the you know, the industrial revolution where you're supposed to be a cog in a machine. It's like, that's
Yeah.
not how.
But did you
kids
like? Were
learn.
you aware of that early on? Like, did you know that was kind of the case, or were you just like, I'm for some reason not interested in, you know, going down this academic kind of being like a super academic kid, or were you like, were you?
Well,
very,
we had to because we're
you're
Indian,
like
Japanese,
Indian,
immigrant,
Japanese. Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
kids.
Yeah,
It was like, you know, if you didn't, you're thrown out of the house, basically. So no, we were always rebelling against the system, but we always forced ourselves to excel in it.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like, it was like the whole thing. It was all of it. Yeah.
Did you guys grow up in a relatively wealthy household or just kind of middle class? Or?
We were very middle class. Yeah. But somehow, like, you know, our dad on one engineer salary, mom was stay-at-home mom, Japanese. They, you know, my mom raised us three of us at home, no help, you know. And it was a pretty traditional. My mom was like the head of our Japanese school. My dad was the head of the Hindi school. My mom started the gifted children summer camp. Like, you know, my dad was our head soccer coach. My mom was the assistant coach. Like, you know, like classic, you know,
it's like very involved. Yeah.
very involved, like music teacher. They drive us around all weekend long, like just really committed parents.
Did you enjoy being a twin?
Great question. I always loved it. I always loved being a twin because we always imagine like going to a school or a class for the first time. Like, you know, you go with your lunch like tray and you're like, go walk in the cafeteria and you don't know anybody and you're like, who's going to like me? I always had a buddy.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, my sister and I are both petite in stature. We're both preemie babies. So we're both pretty petite. And, you know, and we just never got bullied because we're both athletes and we were also always together. So we were just two little twins.
Like if I got to take one, I got to take
You
two.
gotta
of
take
them.
them both,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
you don't want two little Tasmanian devils, you know. And so we were best of friends, and also like the worst of enemies in that like we knew each other's buttons, like brothers and sisters do.
Were you
right?
like very competitive with each other?
Very competitive with each other, and just like. But I think it became healthy competition over time because luckily we were all on sports teams together. We all play in the same team for the most part. We did end up sometimes against each other playing badminton in championship finals, and it would always be like the worst to play against each other. I would lose against her every time until the very last time we ever played, and I won. And so I'm like still the reigning champion between us in badminton, but she won every time.
But you guys would like generally bring the best out of each other through
generally
healthy competition.
like within the competitive realm, we would bring out the best in each other. And also I think we learned a lot of deep resilience that we can punch each other in the gut, like with like pretty cutting words to each other. And then within like a minute, it's like, what's for dinner? You know? And so I think, again, I can translate that to entrepreneurship. Like when you get punched in the face all the time and it's like everyone's slamming their doors in you and saying not investing or not this or not that. I think, you know, it just built the resilience to bounce back pretty quickly.
How long were you guys in Canada?
18 years.
So like until like you were an adult.
Until I went to college. Rada and I both went to Cornell. My sister and I both were recruited for soccer at Cornell. And we were both, my parents would not let us leave Canada, because immigrant parent. They were like, you cannot leave unless you go to an Ivy League school, you know, otherwise you're going to McGill, which is like $1,500 per year. You know what I mean? And
But it's
like,
also a good school, no?
it's the Harvard of Canada, you know, and it's 15 for anyone in within Montreal. It's $1,500 per year to go.
That's like
insane.
free.
It's basically free versus paying $32,000 per year. You know,
Seriously.
which back then was for 3 kids, on one
I don't
engineer
blame him.
salary,
Wow,
like
yeah.
could barely.
Yeah, your ass
like,
is going to McGill.
I know exactly. It's like, and the fact that he let us, like, we were recruited for soccer. We got financial aid and all of that. And, you know, my older sister went to Harvard. And so we were.
Well, Cornell's an Ivy too, right?
Cornell's an Ivy, yeah.
Yeah. So you got into the Ivy, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, they do say that. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, it is an Ivy, and I think watching my sister go to school in the States, like, took the death grip of immigrant parents, like, away
She
from.
kind of paved the way for you.
It was kind of like, whoa, that looks like a lot of fun. Because if we went to McGill, we'd have to stay home.
Yeah.
And we're like, fuck that, you
Right.
know? So we were like, we're going to, so we were recruited to a lot of the Ivies, but we went to Cornell because it was, Harvard's in like a big city like Boston. So we didn't want to go to a school in a city. We wanted to go to like a bumble F nowhere town so that we can really build school spirit. Like, what's the American school spirit look like?
Like that's all you know is like the school and like
that's
the
all you
pride.
know is
Yeah,
a school and that's it, you know? And so you had to just be in the school, like drink the Kool-Aid of the
It's
school.
like Alabama. Like,
Yeah, like exactly. Like
There's
you go to,
literally
like,
nothing
even if
there
our football
for the
team
school.
sucks, you know, like it doesn't matter. Like, you know,
Right.
it just like you still went to the games, you still hung out, did the school
So I
spirit thing.
imagine you and your sister were like pretty good at soccer.
Yeah. We were, we both started as freshmen and, you know, all that. And so we started all 4 years.
Was that ever like a goal for you to like eventually try to be a pro soccer player?
So I did. So after, so we'll, you know.
Sorry for assuming that you didn't.
Yeah. No. I mean, it was certainly So I mean, after I graduated from Cornell, I got a job in investment banking, and I was truly the worst investment banker on the planet. Like, we were just.
Did you study business? At
No,
Cornell?
I was a communications major, and every single year, you know, they bring in like a couple of people who are non-finance majors to do like, you know, like to kind of round out the, you know, the investment banking analyst program.
Yep.
And so both my sister and I both got jobs as analysts in investment banking.
Same place?
She got a job at CIBC World Markets, and I got a job at Deutsche Bank.
Yeah.
And and then but I started my job September 1st, 2001.
Oh.
Good timing.
And my
Yeah.
subway stop every morning was 2 World Trade Center.
Oh my goodness.
And the 2 months prior, we basically, trained, we did the training program, which I was like truly the worst student. I mean, the training program, but then when we started our jobs on September 1st, around that week, 2001, you know, 10 days later, 9/11 happened, and 700 people in my girlfriend's office died because my subway stop every morning was 2 World Trade Center. My girlfriend and I would get tea on the second, you know, right in the lobby of 2 World Trade, and she would go up to the 100th floor, and then I would walk across the street to my office. And 700 people in her office died on that day, and 2 people in my office died on that day. And it was like one of those.
Your office, you said, was close by too?
Directly across the street.
Directly
from 2 World
across.
Trade. So it's like, when it came down, all that shrapnel fell on my building.
And where were you at the
It was the only day in my life I slept through my alarm clock. To this day, the one single only day. I'm the lightest sleeper ever, and it was the one single only day in my life that I slept
That's
through my
like
alarm clock.
an act of God.
It was.
Act of
It truly was. It was divine.
crazy.
And so
Yeah.
that's when I decided, I'm like, fuck this. Like, like the mystery of life is you never know when it's going to end. Like,
Yep.
it can end right now. Like, this ceiling could fall and hit us, and we can all be dead. You know. And so I was like, the time is absolutely now to make every moment count. And so I was like, what do I want to do with my life? Well,
This was literally like 10 days after you started your first job
Yes.
out of college.
I was
You're ready like
22 years old.
time to reconsider.
Already, because I was like, this is bad. I'm terrible at this job. Like, what am I doing? No, because I did 2 months already of like the training
Oh, that's right,
program.
that's right.
And it was like a straight up hazing, and like all the finance kids were just like making fun of like the non-finance people. And we got just hazed, you know, like I got hazed for sure because I didn't know I didn't like put a spreadsheet together. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
You know, they're all Excel nerds. And I was just like, oh my God, you know, so, yeah, so I wrote down 3 things I want to do with my life. The first was to play soccer professionally. The second was to make movies, and the third was start a business. And so I tried out for the New York Magic soccer team, and it was a whole story around how I snuck out of my investment banking job and befriended the doorman and the car service guy who took me there from the bank. And then I would, you know, try out, and they would drive me back to the bank so I can finish my job at 10 o'clock till 10 o'clock at night or whatever. And
So you thought, I'll keep my job for now, make
Just-
money.
yeah.
Like not like just go cold. Not
Yeah,
do anything.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
in the meantime, I'll try to maybe play soccer.
yeah, just try out
other
and see what
things, yeah.
happens. And if I made the team, then I would potentially quit my job and then see what happens. So cut to 2.5 months later, tryouts. They would cut you know, like it was 100 women from all D1 like athletes, all D1 schools that all were trying out. And I was like stretching in the car on the way there. It was like a crazy, time. And every single week they would cut, and you'd have your name on the list, and my name kept appearing on the list of like. So then by the final day of the tryout, the head coach Nino calls the starting lineup, and somehow I make the starting lineup of the New York Magic.
Crazy.
And I was like, holy shit! I was like by far the tiniest person on the team.
What position did you play?
Right midfield. Yeah. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna quit my job. This is amazing. But I was like, wait, let me just play my first game of the season before I quit, just to see like,
And did your like boss or team or colleagues, anyone know that you're doing this?
My managing director at the investment bank knew, and he was the one that ran our department, and he played soccer in college.
Oh, sweet.
So I approached him during the tryouts, and I was like, please don't tell anybody else, but I'm trying out for the New York Magic. Like I think, what I said was, I talk about this in my book, Do Cool Shit. It's like you want the person to be part of your dream. And so like whenever you start a business or anything, like you want to engage the person to enroll them into your dream. So I went to Bill.
When you say the person, you mean like.
So like anyone who you're trying to like, either it's like raising money from, or you're trying to, have them come in and help advise you for your company or whatever. Like with Bill, like I said to him, I was like, he was a managing director at Deutsche Bank. And I was like, I have a dream of being a soccer player. No, you played soccer in college. Imagine you had the opportunity to go try out for the New York, like the sports pro team. Like I would love your blessing to try out for this. And I will come back every time I went to go to try out and finish my job. Like I promise. But this is my dream. Will you help me achieve my dream? And he was like, let's do it. You know? And so he let me sneak out twice a week to go try out.
Sorry, that's a demanding job, right? Investment banking.
100 hours a week.
Yeah. So you were getting in your 100 hours while you're doing this.
While
what do
trying
they
out.
do? I mean, honestly, like, what the fuck do
Most of the time
do?
you're sitting there like just like basically like twiddling your thumbs until the managing directors leave like a bunch of shit you have to do at 6:00 at night, and you have all night to do it because it's due the next morning. So basically you're just like, it's just FaceTime.
Yeah.
Like it's just showing how hardcore you are. And I remember like all the other analysts, like they'd be like, I pulled 3 all-nighters this week. How many all-nighters did you pull? And I was like, God, that's so like, I slept under my desk and my toothbrush is in the cupboard. And I'm like,
proud of that?
I'm like, you're proud of that? Like what? It's like, but anyways, yeah. So I played the first game of the season, like like starting right midfield, whistle blew, like, got the ball, dribbled past 2 players, crossed the ball, striker hits in the back of the net. Within the first 8 minutes, had my first assist for the Magic and the WSA League. But within the moment I crossed the ball, a defender came and slide tackled me, and I heard the telltale snap, and I tore my ACL.
No way! Your first
game of the season after spending 2.5 months trying out.
Did that defender even get a red card?
They definitely
got a red book.
They got a red. No, they just got a. They got a card, but not the yellow card. So it was devastating. Tore my ACL, so I had to stay at the bank to get the best health insurance, the best surgery.
Was that the most devastating part, that you had to stay at the bank?
It was actually. I had to stay for a whole year because I had to get the best surgeon, the best health insurance, and the best
you can't give that up.
Physical therapists to kind of work on my knee. But then I went back out again, tried out again the following year, made the team again, same team, New York Magic, made the starting lineup again, and then tore my other ACL.
Kidding me?
No. And so I was in a semifinal game, like not even with them. It was like I was just kind of helping kind of be a ringer on a like New York Soccer League game that was just in between.
So at that point, are you like, this is not the plan? Like, this is not meant to happen?
It's not meant to happen. I'm hanging up my cleats. What's next on my list? I'm going to quit my job anyways. I can't do this anymore. And I went and worked in the film industry, and then kind of worked my way up to kind of producing commercials, music videos. And then during that period is when I had my first idea for my first business, which was to start.
What did you know about the film industry?
Well, I spent my 2 summers, sophomore and junior year, reading scripts in LA for producers and directors of different production companies because I wanted to kind of be in the film business for a while, and so I really loved storytelling, and I think that lent itself really well to building companies in the future. But storytelling was a really big part of like something that I really loved doing.
What were some like stories or pieces of content that you had consumed like when you were younger that maybe
Well, so
sparked
this
that-
company, these guys that I read scripts were the Dumb and Dumber, Kingpin, like
Com-
Cool
like more
Runnings,
comedy stuff?
all comedy,
Yeah. Like the
funny,
dumb comedy,
the
like
dumb
the stupid
comedy
comedies,
stuff,
yeah.
but like still like iconic dumb comedy.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? That everyone
for sure.
remembers for like you know.
One of my
everyone's-
favorites is like Will Ferrell and his movies.
Do you know what I
Like,
mean?
love that
It's
shit.
like just you can't. You keep getting funnier. You know when you keep watching them. So yeah, and I think also comedy. You know, like if you look at Tushy and they're all comedy undertone, and so I think it all comes together. But my first business idea was born from eating the crappy craft service on the sets of commercials and music videos when. You know, you're eating pigs in a blanket and pizza and like Smarties and Snickers. And I would just come home every night with a horrible stomach ache. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? Because I would eat home cooked Indian, Japanese food, the cleanest food ever.
And this is for like all the staff, all the extras, like
Yeah,
all the
you just have this,
director,
like,
everybody's eating the same
just
food.
this free shit, you know,
Yeah.
like, and I just love free, you know? And so I was still paying off student loan debt. You know, it took me 10 years to pay off the loans. And at the time we were just like, yeah, free is my favorite price. And so we would just eat all that all day long. And it was awful. So that's when, you know, every time I would eat pizza specifically, I would have horrible stomach aches. And I was like, oh, like
Lactose
intolerant, gluten
Gluten.
sensitivity, like sugar would spike my whole thing, and all the processed toppings and pepperoni. Just my body would just get inflamed. It was just not good for me. And so I looked up the pizza industry when I got home one day because I remember eating pizza. I was like, oh, I love the way it tastes, but then 20
I don't like the way it
minutes
feels
later, like it
afterwards, yeah.
feels like shit. And so I was like, wow, pizza's a $32 billion industry. Americans
People
eat
love
100
pizza.
acres of pizza every single day. Like, this is insane. There's huge opportunity to, you know, I was like, whoa, like what if I can take this beloved comfort food and use gluten-free flours and hormone-free cheeses and local seasonal toppings and organic ingredients. And at the time, 2004, no one was talking about organic, gluten-free, local farm to table. These were just like Subway was like the healthy company.
And the idea was like, I mean, the pizza restaurants and there's like packaged pizza that's like
No,
sold
it was
in
doing a
stores.
pizza restaurant. Like
like an
a la-
actual restaurant.
Like
Yeah.
opening the healthy pizza shop.
Got it.
You know, I was so naive.
How old were you? Like 25?
25.
And New York has like a lot of pizza shops.
Every
right?
corner.
Yeah, every corner.
So I was like, you know, I think becoming an entrepreneur, you have to have a healthy level of naivete. Like you have to be like, oh, how hard could that be? Like
I was thinking about this literally today. It's
Do
like
you know what I mean?
the amount of people that just like are too smart for their own good
you
and
know-
just like talk themselves out of things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? You have to come in and be like, I'm just gonna dive in head first, like whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And you can't overthink it. You have to almost be a little bit impetuous. And I think that's part of being, you know, a good entrepreneur, I think.
What was the brand called?
Slice, the perfect food. And my first book, Do Cool Shit, talks all about literally, you know, having the idea, building the concept, raising my first $25,000, having the New York Times come and write about us when we were no name, no chef, like nobody, you know, like what to do when you messed up, like all the different things from 0 to 1 is in my book, Do Cool Shit. But it was, yeah, like getting a lease in New York City. We were up against like Subway, like we were up against Starbucks.
Right.
It was so hard. But I would say like everything I spent 2 years standing outside my restaurant, like asking people to try my little pizza.
What was the response from people?
It was so interesting because it was like the early days of A/B testing headlines. You know, I'd be like standing outside but yelling, just being like, healthy pizza. And people would be like, no one would stop. And I'd be like, gluten-free pizza. Like no one would stop. I'd be like, farm to table pizza, you know, tasty pizza. And then people would start stopping and I'm like, oh, like that works better. Oh, that line works better. And
So
then I
like
would-
literally not even telling them that it was like a different type of pizza, just tasty pizza.
Well, yeah, tasty, like tasty. And then when they came, then I'd be like, did you know? And they're like, oh, this is delicious.
Like
I'm
after they've tried
after
it. By
they
the way, you know,
by
this
the
is
way,
healthy.
did you know that it's healthy? Did you know it's gluten or like local ingredient, like whatever. And I think that was the best way. And it was just like, oh, like what I learned from that experience was meet people where they are and then teach them. So like, you know, I talk about in my book, Disruptor, the idea like how to disrupt industry. Like when you think about the next company Thinks, the next company Tushy after that, like we're talking about deep behavioral changes, generational deep behavioral changes. And so you can't just like hammer something new over someone's head. I learned from my restaurants, from those headlines, standing outside my restaurant for years, that you have to meet people where they are. And then you can slowly transform them. That's what Whole Foods did. That's what, you know, John Mackey, you know, is a dear, dear friend of mine, my son's godfather. And he talks a lot about I could have, Whole Foods used to be like, a vegan, no sugar, no coffee, just pure puritanical vegan store.
Yeah.
And it almost shut down within the first year. And he had a big crossroads. He was like, do I maintain this vegan thing, but then no one comes to my store and I shut down and then I become this like, this failed story, or I can just get outraged and start screaming from the rooftops about how you shouldn't eat meat and how you shouldn't drink coffee because it's, kills your adrenals or whatever, or how you shouldn't eat sugar, whatever it is. And he's like, or I can meet people where they are. I can have the healthiest meats. I can have tea, coffee, I can have sugar, but have the best versions of everything and meet people where they are. And guess what? Billions of dollars later, he's now converted millions of people to a plant-based diet. He's popularized plant-based diet, starting by meeting people where they are.
Yep. Did you end up scaling Slice?
Yeah, we got to 4 locations, but then I was like, I can't do this. This is the restaurant. I'm not a restaurateur. And what I learned deeply from the restaurant industry and the restaurant business was critical to starting Thinx and Tushy, which was, I spent 7 years in my restaurant slogging 24/7, 7 days a week, slinging pizzas, doing deliveries. Pizza guy wouldn't show up. I would make pizzas, like burning my arms. Like delivery guy wouldn't show up. I'd make deliveries. Like I like whatever needed to happen, I would do. And it was thankless pain. It was hard work.
Yeah.
Like,
were you making money?
Barely. Like I was
just gonna ask, like, what are the margins on a pizza shop? Like,
I mean, pizza margins are better than restaurant margins for sure. Yeah. And especially if it's like, organic and, you can you can definitely charge a premium. But like, I was like barely staying afloat. So I would say like, profit margins, maybe like 10%. If I was lucky, 10%. Yeah. But it was like not great. But 7 years, like 7 years of slogging, trying to figure it out, having like people steal from me, like everyone, their mother stole from me, like everyone. Cut to 7 years later, I'm like, I need someone to like help me operate my business. Like I can't, like this is.
So you did it for 7 years.
I did it myself for 7 years. I still have my restaurants 18 years later. They're still.
Oh, they're still around.
They're still around. Yeah. But two around after during COVID, two closed. After 7 years, I finally was like, who could I call? And I was like, oh, I remember my friend Waleed, who was running Moby's restaurants, Teeny and a few other restaurants. I remember meeting him like 8 years prior, and I just got a hit. And I called him up and I was like, Waleed, can you come to my restaurant? And it was at that time it was rebranded to Wild. And so now my restaurant's called Wild. And you can check it out like Eat Drink Wild on Insta. And it's like food porn. It's delicious. Yeah. And he's like, oh, your restaurant's named Wild. My name is Waleed. Waleed, Wild Waleed. This is perfect, And so he comes to my restaurant and he falls in love with it. It's the best location on Hudson between Perry and Charles. We're in the middle of Greenwich Village in the city.
Yeah, great area. Yeah,
great area, and we still have it. It's still open. It's our best. It's the best selling one. And so he came and he took over. And my first question to him was, Waleed, do you believe in karma? Because I was like, at the time, like I said, robbed by everyone, like just like discouraged after 7 years of slogging. And he goes, Miki, every time I have a bad thought, a bicycle run over my foot. And so I was like, oh, are you the genie from Aladdin? Like, thank God. Like, so he became my partner. And ever since then, he's been running the restaurants. And literally within 1 week of him taking over the restaurants, our numbers doubled. Within 1 month, our numbers tripled. And
what was it? Was it?
He just is an operator. He knows what he's doing. He knew how to like organize everything better. He knew how to like set the portions better. He knew like like the basics that I was just trying to stay afloat. I didn't have time to do.
Is it still the same concept now though, or has it changed?
It's more sit down restaurant. We have entrees, we have specials, but pizzas are our bread and butter. Our cauliflower crust pizza, like no one compares to it. It's the best pizza in the city, tasty wise too, taste wise too, truly, and it's also gluten free and all the things.
So now this is like what, 2011?
So 2013. He basically took over the restaurants, and it freed up my time to then start my next company, which is Thinx. And
how did you think about Thinx?
Well, so great question. 2005, So years prior, my twin sister and I were at our family barbecue. We were defending our three-legged race championship title at the family barbecue.
In Canada.
This is now in Connecticut. Our parents moved from Montreal to Connecticut
Okay, cool.
when we were 18. And in Connecticut, it's called Agrapalooza, named after our last name, our dad, and Agrapalooza, as he calls it. And we were defending our three-legged race championship title. And in the middle of the race, my twin sister started her period. Rada started her period. And we were tied to each other, so her period would kind of start going into like kind of my sock too. a little bit. And so we would like during the race, we like sprinted to the finish line and then ran up the stairs together, up the stairs together. So she
Still tied together.
Still tied together, so she can change out her bathing suit bottoms.
Yeah.
And as she was like washing out the bathing suit bottoms was when the idea hit. We were like, wouldn't it be amazing to create a pair of underwear that never leaked, that never stained, that supported women on their periods, like anytime they had any important occasions, like the three-legged race. And then we started thinking about all the situations. Like we played soccer. We can't be like, yo, ref, stop the game. I'll go change my tampon. My older sister's a surgeon. Every single one of her underwears have like stains in them because she can't be like, yo, face, while I'm operating on your face, keep it open while I go change my tampon. Like when you're stuck in traffic, when you're presenting, when you're doing a recital, if you're a dancer, if you're defending your thesis, if you're on a first date, if you're whatever, if you're on a plane, like a woman runs into these problems all the time. And you just leak through everything, you bleed out, and it's a pain in the butt. And every single woman, this is an every single woman problem.
So 8 years later, no one had done anything to solve that.
No.
Like there weren't any other products on the market.
Period underwear were not even, like people are like, period underwear, like bleed into my, like I would never do that. Like people were just like, this is such a disgusting, terrible, weird idea. So we didn't raise a penny. Like we tried to raise money for over a year and raise $0. We had to resort to doing a Kickstarter. So my twin sister, myself,
and you needed money to go and build the product, like create.
Yeah, we had to go develop we developed the product ourselves. It took us 4 years. Me, Rada, and Antonia, our third co-founder. And we basically went to fabric shop. We called every technology company. It was like, okay, it needs to be antimicrobial, moisture wicking, absorbent, and leak proof. And so we had to have all the different technologies within 4 fabrics, but still feel super thin, like not like a pad. And when you wore them, it felt like really, really comfortable. And so, so it really was a revolutionary like concept, and also like disrupting an industry, because tampons and pads had been invented in the 1930s. And so there was no innovation since then because it's a taboo space.
Why do you think you were getting a lot of people saying no? If it was like, obviously it's like a big industry, it's like every woman.
Because period underwear was sounded like a gross concept.
Right.
People it just never existed. So people were like, bleed into my underwear. Like, well, it's a backup for a tampon or pad, or you could bleed into them. Either one, you just wash them out and you just hang dry and you're fine. And it just didn't, like now everyone's like, yeah, duh, of course. But we took us years to create the industry.
Yeah.
But now now the company's a leader, like thinks is a leader in the period underwear space. And, cut to starting Tushy, again, like using a similar playbook of, how do we disrupt an industry that's only using toilet paper in this country? Meanwhile, bidets are ubiquitous in Asia, they're ubiquitous all over.
Yep.
So, we also use a similar strategy to build Tushy.
Were you running Tinx for like, how many years was that? I mean, I know it's still around, but like, were you just the main one?
CEO.
Yeah.
Yes. And Antonia was also in the business. My sister, Rada, never actually operated in the business. She was launching Daybreaker at the time, but she was our third co-founder. We started the company together, but then she kind of never operated in the business.
So you're like, at that point, I'm just trying to do some like math, like you're in your 30s, like this is your full-time job.
Yeah.
Hopefully making money at this point.
Well, at this, startup phase, like not like, again, like we're starting a company. So not a lot at the beginning. I mean, I remember it was like 2014, end of 2014, we were like $60,000 in the hole. And we thought we would raise the money, and we didn't. And we were like, holy shit, we're gonna have to close our doors. Like, this is crazy. But then last minute, like a partner came through. It was a pretty aggressive deal. They took half the company for not that much invested, but they were able to take a lot of our manufacturing and a lot of our stuff off of our plate. So we were like, fuck it, let's just do it. We had no other choice.
Yeah.
And so we took the deal, and they then became our partners. And then from there, I restructured the business a little bit, and then kind of took the reins on the brand. And then we had a few big breaks
Did you feel like you had a better grasp on this business versus Slice? Now it's called Wild, but
I mean, they're completely different industries,
Yeah.
completely different thing. But I built the resilience of hard work because it was 24/7 the restaurant. So like everything's figure outable. Like, you know, there's a lot of like transferable skill sets, but it was still starting from the ground up.
Right.
You know, but it wasn't like I didn't have to be there till like midnight every night, which was nice. Like I got to like sleep.
Yeah.
which was cool. But yeah, I mean, I think with things like we had our big break came in 2015 when we, you know, tried to get into the subways, New York City subways, and they banned our subway campaign from being the subways because they said like you can't say period on the subways. What if 9-year-old
This is the city of New York?
Yeah, the most progressive city in the world. And so we said, if you don't let us publish these ads in the subway, we'll go to press.
Yep.
And they basically said, go to press. They called my bluff because I didn't know any press at the time. And so we went to. We basically called two friends of friends who like had an in at different, you know, places, and one of the publications published it, and the story went viral internationally and put us on the map. And it was like the big moment for our company because they were like, how periods not allowed to be said out loud in the most progressive city in the world? It's kind of crazy. And so, and if you actually cut to Tushy, we use the same playbook for Thinx because we were banned from the subways for Tushy as well because they said bidets are like sex products. And we were like, what? And they were like,
can't a lot of things be sex products?
Exactly. And we're like, no, it's not. It's like toilet paper. It's like washes your butt.
Right.
And so they said, you can't do that. And so we said, we'll go to press. And so we went to press, and New York Daily News published an article about, you know, the MTA banning our Tushy ads from the subways. And like the universe is so miraculous because you cannot predict virality.
Yep.
But Saturday Night Live, SNL, like they go through the New York dailies like every day to find funny random stories. And they found the story, and the lead writer for SNL, Michael Che, loves Tushy and loves bidets. So he went on Weekend Update, Saturday Night Live. You can't pay, there's no price to pay.
Yeah.
And he went and did a 3-minute rant on why Tushy should have been approved on the ads and why bidets are the best thing in the whole world. It was like a 3-minute like infomercial about Tushy. And that was our viral moment.
How'd you see it? Did someone hit you up and be
People were like, what the fuck? How did you get Tushy on SNL? And we were like, what? And it was just like one of those you can't make this shit up moments.
How did you come up with the idea for Tushy? I mean, obviously bidets existed, but like, how did you come up with the idea for Tushy?
So because of my restaurant, like just working 24/7 and just hustling so hard, I developed a really intense hyperthyroid condition, which put my body into overdrive for a couple of years, where my heart was palpitating. I was shitting up to 8 times a day. I lost a ton of weight. It was really terrifying for my body. My adrenals, like everything was just working so hard because I was pushing my body so past its limits. And so because one of the side effects of hyperthyroidism is pooping a lot, I ended up like wiping. And so I would just get really raw. So I ended up jumping in the shower to wash my butt every time I went to the shower because it was so raw that my husband, my boyfriend at the time, now husband, got me this, like for Valentine's Day, a bidet, like a crappy bidet product.
Great romantic gift.
Right. And he installed it, and he was like, surprise.
Hey babe, clean your ass a little bit.
Yeah, he was
Your
like,
gifts in the bathroom.
yeah. And it was a beautifully romantic
What is this
gesture.
shit you got me?
Yeah. Literally. And it changed my life. It truly changed my life. It made my life so like exponentially more easeful and better because it was such a painful process. And I thought about everyone with chronic UTIs, hemorrhoids, anal fissures, anal itching, bacterial vaginosis, yeast infections. Like people have GI issues, they have soft stool. When they have anyone with thyroid issues, 1 in 7. I mean, it's like anyone with any time that they've not like a perfect poop, you're wiping and you're just smearing shit around. You're sitting on fecal matter all day long because most of like you're on your computer, and that fecal matter creeps up, and then for women it goes in your vaginal canal and causes all these infections and diseases and smell and gross.
Right.
So it's just, and for
these are
men,
things
it's
that,
like dingleberries
people,
are real.
Yeah,
You know?
It's like things that people don't talk about, right? Like it's like you call it taboo, call it like edgy, whatever you want to call it, but it's like not just like shit people don't talk about. So how did you?
Literally.
How did you? What was the kind of initial step of like trying to get it out there to? people and find, the target
Like
audience or whatever
educating
it
them
was.
basically. Or-
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's education involved. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, first low hanging fruit, but then I always use comedy. So I learned that comedy really psychologically takes people's guards down and actually allows for new information to implant. Like comedy, like people remember like when they go to a stand-up comedy show and the jokes, because it's like they're just so funny, and it somatically brings your body, your guard down. And so we used like comedy, like comedic writing with artful imagery, like considered artful imagery. And I think art also brings people's guards down. Art is one of the first things that people are like, wow, that's so beautiful. And they're like, oh, they're talking about poop and butts and like bidets. Like, what?
Yeah.
But like they've already let their guard down. And there's, oh my God, this is so funny. They already let their guard down. So when they let their guard down and we're like introducing something new, we're like, this will change your life. It'll save your health and hygiene. You'll feel more confident and sexy.
Yeah.
You will save your money. Over time, you're saving thousands of dollars. You're saving trees. You care about planet. Put your money where your mouth is. 15 million trees get cut down every single year for toilet paper consumption. Do you want to continue to be part of that?
Right.
Or do you want to like your next generation to like actually have a good planet to live? So we basically just started educating, but through comedy, through artful imagery, and through a best-in-class product.
But were you like targeted at all in your initial approach of like trying to get like initial customers, or because everyone
With a butt.
anyone,
Everyone
everyone with a butt is in
Yeah.
this situation.
Definitely millennials.
Yeah.
Because millennials were known to change their hearts and minds faster and easier. They were willing to try new things. And then also people who have like, who care about sustainability, people who care about health and hygiene, people who care about, money savings, like cost savings, things like that. So we're able to target people who cared about, and people specifically low hanging fruit who had all these ailments, UTIs, hemorrhoids, fissures, BV, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah,
GI, like people have mobility issues, people who are older, like there's so many, anytime, like there's people with disabilities, like you can't reach around and wipe your butt. Like there's, you just, instead you turn this little knob. We actually work with the disability community to make a knob that's easy to turn so that they can just turn it and it washes their butt and they feel so autonomous. They feel so good.
Yeah.
And they don't have to like have someone come and, do that for them.
Why do you think that it wasn't a part of our culture here in the U.S. versus
All over
Asia, Europe, where it's like been a thing? Like, why wasn't it the case here?
It's purely cultural. So literally, number one, the bidet is a French product invented by a French man, and bidet means squat horse. And because a French person invented it, the Americans are English. They hate the French. That's number one. Number two is during World War II, when American soldiers went to Europe and they went and fought, in Europe, while they were in France, the soldiers would go to French brothels and they would see bidets in the French brothels, and they associated bidets as something dirty and sexual. And this was puritanical Christian America. When they came back to America, they were like, we think bidets are bad. We were never in brothels, and so they basically shunned the bidet, but they welcomed in pizza. So during World War II, like I'm also a pizza aficionado, and I used to teach a history of pizza because I somehow know, a lot about the history of pizza. And so during World War II, the American soldiers went to southern Italy as well. They went all over Europe, and they discovered this poor man's food called pizza, which was used to basically test the temperature of ovens. And poor men, instead of wasting the bread, they would put sauce and cheese on it and called it pizza. Anyways, so the American soldiers brought those back after World War II. They basically popularized, so then Domino's, Pizza Hut, all came after World War II. So pizza came to America from Europe. They shunned the bidet. And so that's literally, and then since then, all the plumbing systems were built, all the things were built, and they just never really picked up. And then toilet paper industry, 1890s, the Scott's family, they basically like, what can we invent that people have to use and consume all the time over and over and over and over again? They were a big rich family that had a lot of money, and they were like, oh, we can basically create this thing called toilet paper. That, because before people were using phone books and trees and like cloth, and they were using leaves and like corn husks to wipe their butts, and like all this infection, all shit. So like, oh, we can invent this this replenishable product that we can kill trees, but like we can, create this thing. We'll call it toilet paper, and we'll just spend $1 million promoting this thing in the 1800s, and they became the first to popularize toilet paper, and that's when it blew up.
When when you have ideas, what's your kind of process? Do you just like go for it, or do you like I imagine you have other ideas that you haven't pursued like businesses for. Like what's why these specific ones? Yeah, what's your process for that?
Yeah. So in my book, I asked myself the 3 questions.
In Do Cool
Cool
Shit?
Shit. Yeah. So it's just,
And sorry, when did you write that book?
Do Cool Shit I wrote in 2013, and Disruptor came out in 2019.
Okay, so you wrote it basically right when you were starting Thinks.
Yes. Yeah. I wrote it about the building of the restaurant.
The restaurant. Okay.
Yeah. Just to kind of actually memorialize for myself like what I learned, like, and in a story format, just like, oh, this is how we got press, and this is how we raise money, and this is how, and we, did all the marketing and all the things, like, because I kept getting a lot of people asking how'd you do it, even if I'm a small fry, like, people want to know how to go from 0 to 1, What was the question again?
The question was like, when you have ideas, like what's your process?
And why these particular ideas? So I asked myself these 2 questions. The first question is, what sucks in my world? It has to be a problem that sucks in my life
that you like care enough about to not just like start the business, but go through the early tough shit of like starting a business.
Exactly. So that's question number 3. So question number 1 is, what sucks in my world? It has to be a problem with me. So first, I had a stomach ache, which is why I started the restaurants and started pizza, because I had tummy aches. So what sucked in my world? Having period accidents everywhere. What sucked in my world? Having a dirty, annoying butt, like butt from poop. Question number 2 is, does it suck for a lot of people? Does it suck for a lot of people? 1 in 5 Americans are lactards, they can't eat lactose. 1 in 5 Americans now eat gluten-free. It's huge opportunity.
But did you go about that, like doing just like research online, or like talking to people?
Tons of research online, talking, all of it, all of the above.
All of it. Yeah. Are you the person that like hits up all your friends and just like,
yes. I'm not the one who's like, I'm not telling anyone anything. I'm hiding people are like, oh, I'm not telling. It's like, no one's going to start the thing that you're coming up with. Trust me. They're not going to care as much. Like, go just tell everyone. And what's most likely going to happen is they'll give you more ideas, and you'll actually have better ideas when you talk about it more and more. So what sucks in my world? Having, what sucks for others? Every woman has a period accident. Every person who doesn't have a bidet has a dirty butt. Like what sucks in so what sucks in my world? Does it suck for a lot of people? So if it sucks for a lot of people, it's an opportunity. It's a market. It's a business. And then the third question is the most important, as you said. Can I be passionate about this issue, cause, or community for a really long time?
Like, can I see myself doing this for 10 years?
Yes, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. Can I sit in the discomfort of the ups and downs and the shitstorm and the, I don't know how to figure this out, like stress of 10 years in this particular industry, in this particular business, in this particular exact business? For me, the restaurants was, yes, I want to eat pizza. I love pizza. I want my own version. Yes, I want to solve my period problem. It's a problem every month. Every month, it's a messy, frustrating thing. I need to solve this. I will be passionate about this forever. Will I be passionate about solving my own problem, which saved my life? It gave me dignity. Like, honestly, and I felt clean and sexy and desirable and like awesome, and I saved trees, and I saved money. Like, I was like, yes, like I can be passionate about this.
Like, it checks off the boxes.
It checks off all the boxes for me. And it's disruptive enough that it'll be interesting for me to figure out how to get people interested in trying this. Like, from a creative person perspective, I love like introducing something new to people and doing it in a way that people like, like I never thought about that. It's a creative person's like kind of dream to come up with like, how do you tell a story?
Yep.
Which question do most of your ideas die at?
Probably, does it suck for a lot of people?
Second one.
It's the second one, because a lot of problems like you just have, and you're like, I'm just like a weirdo.
Like what's one? Give me a couple of those. I'm curious. Or any that you've come up with that you're like, I got killed.
Okay, so like I had this idea of like starting like Andrew will laugh at me because he was like, that's like such a dumb idea, but I still think it's kind of a good idea. Like an idea called Wheels. And this was like originally because I was like, I'm a tiny person. Like, I hate carrying shit. So like taking like any duffel, anything, you just like, it's a thing that it turns anything into
like a makeshift dolly.
It turns anything into like a
pushable
push or pull bag. And like no one's done that before. And I was like, it would solve a problem for me. But it's like, I think it would solve a problem for a lot of people. But Andrew was like, I don't think I'd put wheels on a fucking bag. And I was like, I would do that 100%.
Yeah.
Or like, I have an idea right now that, my dad and I are actually thinking about doing, and it's a problem that sucks for everyone, which is like, I want to create a vacuum cleaner for the sky, where it vacuum cleans and takes in all the CO2 and then breaks the carbon oxygen atom and then like basically using like, the energy of the sun and then like
Would this be like a commercial product, or would this be like a product that like an individual
it would be a
consumer has?
commercial product, but then it would be like living on people's homes. So then like the oxygen would go back in the air and the carbon would use to be power the homes, stuff like that, which is like, but it's a pretty intense, process to do.
Pretty intense undertaking.
You know what I mean? And so stuff like, just like, but like, I mean, an idea we came up, early on was called the build your own pizza kit, which was like before like the food prep, like businesses,
meal delivery,
like, all the meal delivery stuff. Like this was in 2004 when 2005 when we came up with, we were like, oh, we would make your own pizza kit, like the crust, sauce, cheese, and toppings in different bags, and then you at home you just put it together and make it as a family, like a family fun thing, but then you'd feel like you had a hand in making your food, but it was way too early. Like it wasn't
like logistically
like I remember like buying a vacuum seal machine and renting a truck and bringing it, and I almost died because the vacuum seal machine came loose in the truck and almost hit me in the back of the head. And it was like, oh my God, what am I doing? So it just kind of died after like this, I sold it in 18 stores.
Yeah.
But it was like, I can't, like, it was like not working,
You have a lot of energy and enthusiasm. Where does that come from?
I mean, I personally think, honestly, like just like you two are best friends, and you have this podcast, you've done what, 220 plus podcasts, like you've said, like you have an energy between you that keeps you coming back and doing this and continuously, even when sometimes it's like you're tired from work, you want to go home, you want to start early so you can just get home early and be done. You know what I mean? But you're still doing it because like we're fucking doing it. I've had that with a twin for my whole life. I've had a buddy who's like, oh my God, it's the best idea I've ever heard in my entire life. Let's go fucking do it. I'll be your first customer, And so it's like having someone be your cheerleader and your co-conspirator and your best friend to do something with, like to co-create and ideate and build with. For me, I think and then my community now is all like the sparkly-eyed dreamers who just are always like, like super supportive, excited people. And so I think like excitement generates excitement.
100%. How do you go about like building those relationships with people? Like, I mean, obviously through time you go to places, but like, is there anything specific that you're like kind of seeking out in terms of like the people you surround yourself with? Because it's just so important. It's like one of the most important things.
When people ask me like, what is the number one piece of advice as an entrepreneur to build, to start and grow your company? For me, it's community. Building your community, just like the two of you, like I said, you've kept this going for many years, like, whatever, since 2019, because of your relationship and that spark. You're like, we get to come together, hang out. The same thing. It's like, for me, when building my community in New York with my friends, most of us are entrepreneurs. And so like when shit hits the fan and shit is low and shit is hard, we go and hang out with our friends and then we celebrate their wins. Like, one of our friends, like Matt, I'll never forget, like he was trying to raise money for almost 2 years and couldn't raise a dime. And we remember like when he sent us a screenshot of his bank account that showed that he'd raised a couple million, like we all sobbed together. Like we all sobbed because we were in it together.
Because it's like, it is such a
your win is my win. My win is your win. And it's like that level of like, we're in this together. And so like when shit hits the fan for me, like, or I'm like, have a big launch for like, or I have a big party launch for a thing, everyone shows up because I show up for them. They show up for me. Not because, oh, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, but it's genuine. You genuinely want to support each other. And that is the key, I think, to longevity in business, to keeping this energy. Like, why am I energetic, guys? Because my friends keep me energized. Like my family, like all my besties, like people who I love and love me back. Like we keep each other filled up. And how do we do that? Is by handpicking people. You're like, we have great energy. I'm inviting, I would love for you to come to a dinner party I'm having next week. People have to be proactive. People are like, oh, you just build community like that. No, it's an ongoing, like, just like you guys, like I said, I'm bringing this back to your podcast. Week in, week out, you have new guests, you bring people in, you do this commitment, you meet new people. You're like, oh, like I really vibed with you. Like I'm having a party, you want to come to my house?
People think they're just gonna people are just gonna come to them.
Just gonna come to them and just be like, no, you have to go and seek people out, have conversations. You've had 220 conversations with epic people, and you'll remember.
Some weren't that epic.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
so like 218.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but like I'm sure like 10 of them will be like, oh, these could be friends.
Yeah, of course.
100%.
Do you know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
whatever. Like,
Yeah.
you're gonna be like, of them, like, now all of a sudden you've got peeps that you can call, and you're like, oh my God, we really like, that was fun. Like,
Yeah.
I want to continue, want to come over for a beer. You want to come over and hang out. Like, I made a big soup of Armenian, my mom, grandma's soup dish.
Yep.
Do you know what I
Where's
mean?
the fucking soup?
No,
I want
it's
some
always
soup,
about
Pat.
the soup. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
And it's like,
100%.
I
Soup's a big
always
deal.
gather people with doll soup at my house.
Yeah.
Like, we always gather people with food, like break bread around the table. Like, we know that as family people, immigrants, that's how you do.
That's the
And
thing, yeah.
That's the thing. And so it's about organizing community. It's about feeling a vibe. Like, our community, Boom Spiral in New York, it's been mostly like my sister, myself, Eli, Andrew, and now it's grown. But in the beginning, handpicking. We met people on the plane sitting next to us. We're like, oh my God, you should join this crew. Like, oh my God, we met someone at this conference. We're like, oh my God, we love you. At Burning Man, we met, oh my God, we met someone at like, that, like at a coffee shop. Also, we met someone at like, at a friend's house. It just wherever, but it's all same frequency, same vibration, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, doing something cool in the world, lit up by what they're doing in their lives. Like, not like kind of shit talky, like negative, like wants to hate their job together. Like, it's everyone's like, oh my God, who like, I can't even get words out because I'm so excited about, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
who can talk faster about what they're doing because we're so excited, right? Like, it's that level of energizing people that come into our life where sometimes, like, I remember when I went through the shitty dark part of my life, and I was like, I remember I just also like given birth, and like, well, at that point was beautiful because I'd given birth, but prior to that, I had a really tough time. I had friends come over and just like play guitar and entertain me. Like, I didn't even need to talk sometimes. Like, and then sometimes I got super excited, and we'd revive each other. Like, that's it.
I have so much to learn still, right? Like, there's so much life to be lived and experiences to be had. But one thing I've boiled down at this stage of my life is everything we do is pretty much to be able to surround ourselves with like awesome people and just enjoy, because that's just like it's like a part of life that you can't buy necessarily, and you can't like, it's just like the meaning of life for so many people.
It's love. Like,
Yeah,
we all
yeah.
want to be loved and to give love. Like,
Yeah.
that's it. When we're all gonna die. That is the certainty of life, is that we're gonna die.
Yeah.
What are we gonna remember by working the other 24 hours a day, or we're gonna remember by like, man, he showed up for me when I needed him the most. Like, wow, like what a fucking great friend. Like, when I got sick, I got, his
Like,
day
what I'm saying
came
is, like,
over.
once you
Like,
have that in life and you truly have that, like, that's like pure success to me.
that's it.
Yeah, that's pure success.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's it. It's truly beautiful. And sometimes it's easy to take for granted, and sometimes we remember. We have to remind ourselves. Like, right now, I'm in a minute, like with my husband Andrew. We're in a 3-month trial separation after 11 years right now, which is a good thing. And we're going through a transmuting of our relationship. And it's like, oh wow, like even these moments are important in sort of like building community. Like, how do you build community in a new way in this next chapter in our life? Like, with each other even, right? So it's like communities change and they evolve all the time, which includes your closest relationships and closest partners. And it's not about, oh, like I'm moving on. It's like we're all evolving together, and either some people evolve with us or some people don't. And then either we come to, it's an ever evolving thing. So like, I also want to be clear that like community, like we don't necessarily, we're constantly building our community again and again and again and again and again. In the same way, we're constantly building our own selves again and again and again, and constantly building our closest relationships again and again and again. Right. My point of saying like what I'm experiencing with my husband right now is that like it's ever evolving and it's all okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's all okay. Every version of community relationships, it's all part of the journey, and it's all really important.
I'm curious, does the positivity and like the energy ever get draining, or is it just like you?
Yo, I can chill harder than you probably can. Okay.
Probably,
I'm such a hardcore chiller too. No, I'm just kidding. No, I do. I mean, I'm Indian blooded, you know what I mean? And Japanese, like straight up samurai, like, right? Like, my mom comes from samurai lineage. Like, I can get fucking hot and heated as well. And I can get angry, and I can get sad, and I can get hurt, and I can get, like anyone else.
Right.
But like, I think my main normal way of being is optimistic. And I think most entrepreneurs have to be naturally optimistic, because if you're naturally pessimistic, You're just never gonna feel like you can get through a hump.
Right.
It's like, oh, this is gonna happen, and then you eventually it's like what you think happens, right?
NGMI not going to make it. Is that what it is? The Twitter term? I don't even know.
Oh yeah, it's like it's like fuck
Yeah.
that,
Yeah,
you know.
I
And
hate-
like
I hate that shit.
I hate that shit.
Yeah.
I'm an eternal optimist. Like
Yeah.
yes, like I'm not a bypasser. Like I'm not being like it's cool. Like we're in a separation.
You're realistic.
I'm realistic, and I'm like and I also, because I've experienced the depths of despair, sadness, pain, hurt, trauma, all the things in my life in business, I now know that the depths of that can create the heights of like joy and gratitude and holy shit magic. This is amazing. And so now when I go through really hard shit, like even right now, like with my husband, like this moment, like it's hard, but it's also beautiful. It's important. It's needed. Like I know the beauty in the hardship. Like I see the joy and the magic in this moment. So we can come out the other side even more connected, even closer, even better than before. Because now that like it's like when you go through something really hard and then you get through it, and then you thrive. You don't even survive, but you thrive. You're like, oh, like I went through that and I came out of it even better. Like I know now, like I have faith and belief that no matter what shit thing happens, I will come out and it's going to be better.
Yeah.
I just have to trust. And like we often don't trust ourselves, the universe, others, anyone. And so it's when we're like in full trust, surrender, but like not fake trust. We're like, I'm trusting. It's like when you're really trusting, like that. A
lot of times that comes through experience. And like
Yeah.
one of the beautiful parts of getting older and experiencing a lot of things is like you get to go through it and realize like, oh, this is how it is. So that way the next time it comes around, you're like, oh, I know exactly how to handle this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, it's like, oh, like I saw this before. I did it that way. That wasn't fun for me doing it that way. Let me try doing it this way. Oh, I did it this way. That was way more fun. Even if it's a hard thing, it was way less stressful to do it this way. Okay, I'm gonna do it this way next time. Okay. Oh, next time I can do it even more like high vibrational way. Like, let me do it that. So but yes, you have to, I think rather than living in our safe box and just being like, I'm not going to put myself in these scary positions and then just live. Like my favorite saying is this poem or is this quote, which is like, I want to skid to death's door sideways, not in a well-preserved body, thoroughly used up, loudly proclaiming, wow, what a ride. You know, it's like, that's how we want to live. I want to suck the marrow out of life. You know, we talk about that. I talk about that all the time with my sister, my family, and my friends. We're like, we want to experience everything before we die, not just be like, oh, I like, you know, the minivan, my white picket fence, and the nice house in the suburb of the blah. I'm like, kill me, you know. It's like, no, like I want to feel every pain and every joy possible before I die.
When did you come to that realization? Like what? Not only what happened, but like at what age, at what moment?
It's a very, God, you guys ask great questions. It was a very specific moment for me was 2017 when I was in the eye of the storm of this really, really awful time in my last company. It was like,
And the last company being
Thinks in the last
Thinks.
company. I was a really, really like yucky, like I was pregnant at the time. Like it was just dark, like what was going on. And you know, like that's the story for another time. But I remember I was pregnant and crying in my pillow and being like, what, like, why is this, like, what am I, why me? You know what I mean? Like you have those moments where you're like, why me?
Like, what did I do? You're
What
just
did
like
I
trying to
do to
recollect all your
deserve
thoughts. Yeah.
this? Like, what the fuck did I do to deserve this bullshit? Like, how is this happening? I'm pregnant with a baby, and this is what's going on. Like, what the fuck? And I remember like crying in my pillow and just being so sad. And then I had this like Whoopi Goldberg in the movie Ghost out of body experience. You know, you go, blah, 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 and then like instead of like she embodying a person, like I came out of my own body and became like a fly, observing myself crying in my pillow. And I was like, oh my God, I get to feel the depths of despair. Like I get to feel like, holy shit, like I get to feel betrayal at a core deep level that I never would have felt had I not gone through this experience. And so I just got hit by this deep gratitude. Like it was like an out of body experience. Like I can't explain it.
And you were just crying. Like That was
I was just, I was crying in my pillow, but then I started crying. I was like a psycho, like in my pillow, just being so grateful for this dark experience so that I can now feel everything that like it was a feeling that I'd never felt before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like I just expanded my own emotional capacity in this way, which means that I can expand my own emotional capacity in joy and ecstasy and like that other direction too.
Yeah, the
And
contrast.
The
Yeah.
contrast.
Yeah.
And I can also now meet people where they are. If someone else has experienced despair or betrayal or sadness at this level, like I can meet them there and comfort them. Because before I was like, couldn't meet them because I didn't have that. I didn't have the experience to even go there. And so how can I meet someone in that, like really feel their pain if I haven't experienced it myself?
Yeah.
And so now I have this like new touch point of connection and intimacy with someone else that I just didn't have access to before. You know, so I'm just in deep reverence and gratitude. And I think from that moment, it was like, I was like, bring me the pain, like bring me the anger, bring me the fear, you know? I also think I did a 5-MeO DMT ceremony.
a what? Say that again.
5-MeO DMT. It's DMT is like you smoke this like toad like venom basically out of a pipe. Yeah, it's like, sorry, daddy and mama, but like, you know, just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Is it like some sort of like psychedelic experience?
it's basically what it takes you to. It's supposed to be like a death and a rebirth experience. Like you actually die and you come back, like in your mind.
Wow.
So it's this full on, but because I had just had Hero, my son, I was like, there's no fucking way I'm dying. So my whole being resisted death. And the whole point is like, what resists persists, right? We know that. And so I just, for 8 months after that experience, I slept 1 hour a night. And I was so scared.
For 8 months?
For 8 months. And I was like, I was sleeping 8 hours a night before. And I was like going slowly crazy. I was like, I'm never going to sleep again. Like, what have I done to what have I done?
Because you're afraid of death.
Well, I was never going to sleep again. No, because I would just this experience.
Yeah.
Every time I closed my eyes, I would have these reactivations.
You felt like you're back in that.
I was back in the thing, and I was just like, oh my God, like. And finally, I remember 8 months later, I was like, fine, fucking kill me. Like, I can't do this anymore. Just take me, universe. Like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And in that deep, for real surrender, I all of a sudden became a tree where I was like writhing around like this, like and I was like, you know, getting just in a storm. I was a tree in a storm, and I let fear fully in. Like, I let fear, like, to the tips of my fingers, to the top of my head, to the bottom of my toes. I just let fear in. Like, 100% overcome my whole entire body. Like, fear just took over my whole body and just let it. And I was just like, oh my God, you know, whatever. and then like storms, it passed. And that night I slept 7 hours. The next night I slept 8. And I was like, it was a somatic experience, which means it was a body felt experience. I was like, wow, like, when I resist, like, I was like, oh, wow, feelings, emotions are visitors. They come and they go. They come and they go. They come through the door. Sometimes they window shop. Sometimes they're peering in. Sometimes they come through the door. Sometimes they overstay their welcome. Boo-hoo, I'm sad or I'm angry. You know, when you get angry and sometimes you're like angry for too long, or you're like too sad, or you're like really euphoric and you're like, wow, this is, you know, whatever. But every feeling comes and goes. It, you know, orgasm comes and goes. Like, feelings, every single thing comes and goes. So it was that moment where I'm like, oh, this too shall pass. Like, anything shall pass.
Yeah.
Any moment that's hard, that's easy, that's amazing, that's tough, that's this, it'll just keep passing. And the weather keeps changing. My feelings keep passing. It'll just keep changing. So I can't control the weather. I can't control my emotions. They just come to me, and I just have to let them. I have to acknowledge them. I have to accept them, and they just come through me, and they just go. So it's like, I think I just have to have these deep experiences to be like, oh, and then imprint them.
For sure.
You know.
So what does like day to day look like for you now? And like what's the kind of maybe near term, let's call it 5 to 10 year vision of like what you want to do?
Yeah. Well, so I'm working on a new company as well. So I have Tushy, of course, that I'm building. Like
How is Tushy doing?
Tushy's doing great. You know, we are scaling, and we are, you know, we're in the 9-figure valuation, you know, space already, which is very cool.
Awesome.
Yep. And you know, with under 30 people on my team.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we have an
Are you the CEO or?
I've brought in a CEO from Amazon who's amazing. I'm the chief creative officer, founder, chief creative officer. I have my dope, you know, co-founder, COO, legal background. You know, we have a whole executive team, and I get to do all the things I love doing, which is creative, brand, like think through the campaigns, like how to really scale the vision of the company. And all the creative nitty gritty, everything. The creative department is my department. And so now I'm also working on my next company, which is it's called Hero Technologies. It's named after my son, and it's I'll tell you all about it, but it's in the fungal space.
Interesting.
And fungal and poop space. Yeah.
We like poop.
So I like everything down there.
Yeah.
It makes
Just
sense.
that general area.
Yeah. And
Below the hip.
So I spend I would say like 75% of my time still on Tushy.
Okay.
And 25% of my time on Hero.
When did you move to Austin?
I moved right during COVID, September of 2020.
And from New York.
From New York, after 19 years of New York. And I think that's also one of the things that contributed to the challenging moment with my relationship with my husband, where we went from deep community, 100 people in our community, walk out my door, I'm 3 minutes away from everyone, to living on a lake, just the two of us with our kid. Community is like 30 minutes away. So it's been...
Was it supposed to be like a long-term thing, or was it just like in the moment for now?
No, my next company, we just signed a lease for a 5-year lab space there. So we're there to stay.
Yeah.
But no, it was a move. I was ready to go. We were both ready to leave New York because, you know, New York is, like I said, adrenals, fatigue. Like it's just a place where you kind of burn hard for a long time. And we have a kid. We wanted him to go to school and not have to be screen school.
Right.
And we wanted him not to be masked at school.
Yep.
And so in Texas, you know, nobody has COVID basically. No. But teachers wear masks, and the kids under 5 years old at the time didn't need to wear masks.
Yeah.
And so he got to go to have a normal junior pre-K and pre-K with no issue, and had a normal kid, you know, like school experience, which was so important to us. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, I mean, this has been such a fun conversation.
Yeah.
I feel like we can take this like so many different ways and like keep going for hours.
Got to do a round 2.
Yeah, we'll do round 2
round
at some
2,
point.
done.
But such a pleasure, and you know, thank you for coming by and sharing your awesome story and experiences, and excited to see what comes next for you.
Yes, but in the meantime, you guys need to wash your ass with Hello Tushy. Go to hellotushy.com. Do not go to tushy.com. It is a very graphic anal porn site.
Okay.
So go to hello.
Very important.
And I know
Very
that there's a
Difference.
code also for the Founder Hour.
Yes.
Oh, there is. Okay.
There is a code.
Yes.
I don't know it off the top of my head.
Well, we'll put it in the episode.
But we will put it in the episode
and you get
description.
it's 15,
and the email.
Yeah, I think it's 15%.
15% off, I think.
Yeah, Tushy.
I wish I remembered it, but I don't have good memory.
It'll be in the
we'll put it in the
It'll be in the description. It'll be on social media. You guys got to follow Miki.
Yeah, it's just at Miki Agrawal on Instagram.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is there a new book coming out anytime soon?
I do have a new book coming out, but I would first start with Do Cool Shit and Disrupt Her.
Yeah.
Because those are the ones that are really about.
So when you launch the next book, we'll get you back on.
That's
We'll
it.
continue the
And
conversation.
the next company,
Talk about
when
the
Hero
book.
launches and when the next book comes, we'll talk again.
Perfect. Well, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.